Hi, 210 students. Here is your bi-weekly update. We are now moving into weeks 9 and 10. Um, these next 2 weeks, we will cover religion, which is chapter 8, and then you will have the option to read and summarize chapter 9 or 10 for extra credit. So that's not required, but I figure as we start to near the end of this semester and some of these major projects are due, a few extra credit points here and there might be helpful for you. So that's totally up to you. We will also, these next 2 weeks, finish up with other people's children. I'm assuming some of you really enjoy reading it and some of you hate it, so it's probably a good thing for some of you that this is the last discussion board post involving other people's children. Over the next 2 weeks, 11 and 12, we will spend that whole time covering the final chapter of the text, which is education that is multicultural. So we'll kind of bring it all back together. And then the final 2 weeks of the semester, which are 13 and 14, will be when your major project is due, whether it be service learning or your research project. So you'll spend some time looking at other people's blogs and commenting on them and finishing up this semester that way with that major project. You don't have a final or a test in this class. That pretty much is your final, that project. These next 2 weeks, 9 and 10, are going to be due April 3rd. We'll finish up with other people's children, like I mentioned. You'll take a quiz on Chapter 8, Religion. There are 2 questions I wanted to give you a heads up on that quiz. One is how should religion be taught in schools? And I want you to know that religion can be taught in school. It's sort of a teach, not preach model, but there's a lot of information in Canvas about that for you to look over to answer that question thoroughly. And another question is in the test is to pick a religion you aren't familiar with. The textbook introduces a ton of different religions. So pick one of those and tell me a little bit about it and how it might affect teaching or your classroom if you were to have a student or family that practiced that religion. The learning outcomes for Chapter 8, Religion, include from your text on page 180, explaining the importance of religion to the cultural makeup of an individual and the diversity of religions across the United States. Religion is embedded in so much of history, so much of law, what we do, why we do it. Even if we don't recognize it, religion really impacts our day-to-day lives, whether or not you're a religious person or not. I just had Joe Howard, the superintendent of Prescott Unified, come talk to my Intro to Ed class about ethics. And one of the first questions that came up was religion in the classroom. So this is a big topic. Discuss the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and its implications and impact on education. Describe the importance of religion and the diversity of religious freedom internationally. This one's really good. Discuss how religion in the United States has changed in the past several decades and continues to change. So it's sort of a moving target. Describe the interaction of religion with gender, gay, and lesbian identity and race. That would be an example of a cross-cultural examination. You're looking at sexual orientation, race, religion. List examples of legal challenges to the separation of church and state in the United States. And then finally, provide examples of what schools can do and cannot do with respect to religion. So you'll cover a lot in one short chapter. There are whole classes, whole degrees on religion. This is just going to be a short snippet of the kinds of things as a classroom teacher that you might encounter. So I hope you enjoy this it's not our last chapter. I hope you enjoy the before the last chapter that we will be covering. I kind of saved the most controversial for last, and in some ways the hardest for last, and that's why you only have one chapter over the next 2 weeks that you have to do. It'll give you time to really read through and process all of this information. For those of you who are so kind to ask about my mom, she is doing okay. She has pain management, is the first on the list right now. She has an appointment for radiology, or to see a radiologist today, actually, and then hopefully she'll get more test results. So we're in a holding pattern, but thank you so much for your concern and understanding and stories. I know a lot of you have lost parents and other loved ones to cancer, so I really am really touched by all of your concern and empathy, and I will keep you posted if anything changes or if something comes up. But so far, so good as can be expected. So thanks again for that, and I will check back in again in the next few weeks. Have a great Easter for those of you who celebrate.